Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Spitting Venom, and today we are once again playing Final Fantasy Tactics, the War of the Lions edition. And I just kept the intro in here. I'll probably do it for all the episodes just because I like it so much. I like this little poem in a way where it talks about forging steel with your heart and everything. It's pretty awesome actually, and I like the kind of the kaleidoscope effect it has. It's really beautiful. The team that put these scenes together, and I learned actually that the cutscenes are a cell shaded style, but they add this sketchy overlay to it to add that hand drawn effect, which is beautiful. But I don't know if in this episode we're going to see any of the cutscenes. Pretty much what I do in this one is I kind of edited 3 of the battles together that happened after where we last left off, which was obviously our father dying. So when the game began, we were in, a Laslam who's in the future is a scholar in a way. He's trying to figure out the truth about what happened during the War of the Lions. So then we go back in time to what I'm going to call present day, which is not what's happening right now. In present day, you have the princess being captured by Delita, Ramza's old, his friend from childhood, who was raised with him. And Ramza, like I said in the last episode, he's not pure royal blood. He has a different mother than his brothers have. And his brother Daisadarg and Zalbag, they both were there along with his sister Alma when their father passed away. And once their father passed away, now that's where this takes place. So it's sorry for the confusion and the jumping around, but we saw Delita take the princess, and from that moment we traveled back in time. To early days of Ramza and Delita, before Delita fell from grace and before he presumably died. So that's what we're seeing now, and we're leading up to the moment that we saw at the beginning of the game where, Ramza saw his former best friend still alive, kidnapping the princess and running off with her. And he's kind of like, what's going on? Why did he kidnap her? If he is alive, why would he do that? I know he hates me for what happened, but why? Why go this far? And that's now what we're seeing. We're going back to those early days, right when Ramza's father passed away and Delita and Ramza began this path that led them to separating as friends. And that's where we are here. So again, I'm speeding up the battles in these. I'm just going to show each battle once. Obviously, I did a lot of grinding. You're going to see in between battles when I go to the next one and then the one after, you're going to see my character level go up. And you're going to see my characters be different job classes too, and that's purely because I did a ton of grinding. I remember this game, or most of my memories of this game, I should say, because I don't remember every single playthrough, obviously, because I've played it a ton of times. But the ones I do remember are I remember being aggravated. I remember just being upset because these earlier battles and even some of the later ones, I got my butt kicked so bad in them, and I was unprepared for pretty much all of them. And I would just go from one city to the next, just doing the battles in order and only leveling up a little bit. And I remember getting to the point where I got frustrated that I would have to go into a random battle because I'm like, no, I want to see more of the story. I want to see more of the story. But this is one of those games where I definitely encourage you, if you're playing it, to level up the best you can. But I would say probably don't go as high as I end up going. I think my character, by the time we get to the end of chapter 1, I think Ramza and most of my other characters are between levels 15 and 20, maybe even some of them higher than that. And I would say that's too much. That's definitely overkill, because then nothing becomes a challenge, and you don't want that either. You definitely want some kind of challenge when you're playing this game. So I would say once you get to level 15 with Ramza, you could probably jump into the final battle of chapter 1, and we'll get there, in the next couple episodes, because like I said, the way I'm editing these is I'm taking 3 of my playthroughs and I'm crunching them together and trying to keep them less than 30 minutes. And the best way for me to do that is by doing this here, by speeding up, the footage. So you'll see a little bit of my strategy and my tactics. I wanted to definitely show the gameplay off, but at the same time, I didn't want to bore anybody either, so I'm like, all right, I'll speed things up. But like I said, there's a lot of information here in this Final Fantasy Tactics War Lions. It's basically a battle. It's set in Ivalice, and it's between the Kingdom of Ivalice and one of its neighboring regions, which is called Ordalia. And again, like I said, this was all documented by the church to say that it happened a certain way. And we're going to find out that it did not go the way the church said it did. And so that's where this scholar Elaslam, like 100 or 200 years from now, is piecing it all together. He's learning the truth about Ramza and how important Ramza was to the overall storyline, and and the ending of what happens in the War of Lions. So, he believes Ramza played a bigger role than history remembered him playing, and that's what he's trying to get to right now. So I love that. I love like the scholar historical side of this. I love the political cover-up side of this, and that it's like a church cover-up at the same time, but doing it for various reasons, and it's really cool. That's why I got sucked into this game and this story so deeply, because it's very smart storytelling. I feel it doesn't waste anything. Every scene is very important. Most lines of dialogue, I mean, there's a couple filler dialogues, just people chit-chatting and stuff, but most dialogue matters to the plot, to the story, to the characters. It's very well handled, I gotta say. They did a very good job. And even on this updated version, I feel like they did a great job preserving the original Final Fantasy Tactics that was on the PS1, but adding in so much more that just pulls in hopefully a new fan, but also rewards old fans. And that's at least how I feel while playing it. And some of the updates that they did, they updated, they tied in some characters, because like I said, this was part of a relaunch, this big event that Final Fantasy was doing, where they were like, oh, we're going to do like the Ivalice Chronicles or something, and they had Final Fantasy 12 out there already, but then they did a Final Fantasy 12 like spin-off called Revenant Wings. And then they also made a Final Fantasy Tactics A2 Grimoire of the Rift. And all of those kind of are set in the same world as this game is. And like I said, Final Fantasy 12 is kind of set during the time of machinery. And this is taking place, centuries after that, after mankind has used up everything, all their resources and everything. And we're back to medieval, like the medieval days. So that's pretty awesome. And this guy we just saved here, and I'm blanking on his name right now. It'll come to me. We'll see it again. But he's part of like another family that like feels like his bloodline should be as renowned, I guess, as the Bell family. This is Argith, and he believes he should be up there, doing things for the royal family and being a big part of this war. And he feels his blood is pure, and that he's a royal bloodline, I guess, and that causes a lot of contention between him and Delita. Ramza, this is why I like the relationships here between Ramza and Delita, and how well they did a good job setting up the two paths ahead of Ramza in this. So right here, you're getting this introduction. You get this guy who is royal blood. He wants to do things the way that the royal family wants to do things, that he wants to fight the war the way, society wants him to fight the war, and he's a full believer in that. He doesn't care much for commoners. He doesn't care much for Delita, or Delita's sister later on when Tietra gets into trouble. He doesn't care about people that he deems are less than him. And whereas Delita is the opposite. Delita is compassionate, and he believes in equality because he has a friend who is of higher, or I guess not higher blood, I guess, but according to their society, is of royal blood, and he's been friends with him his whole life, and his sister's been friends with his, Ramza's sister, their whole life. And so Delita, as Argoth will point out, you mistake your place. You're a commoner, and Ramza's always like, no, he's my friend first. He's not a commoner. He's my friend. He's my equal. And so they all go here to talk to Dysadarg, Ramza's brother, and they're trying to get information from him about what they should do next. This plot that they're revealing, that Argoth has information on. There's people being kidnapped, people essential to the war, people that could sway the war, and Argoth has learned all this, and he's sharing it with us. So he has some value, definitely. He just has a different point of view than Ramza. And so Ramza, ahead of him, has these two paths. Like I said, it's either go the Argoth route or go the Delita route. And that's kind of the two choices Ramza has before him. But like any good hero, I feel like Ramza tries to find a third path. He tries to find the best of both worlds. But unfortunately, sometimes in doing that, chaos can come from that. You think you're chasing the path of order, but in the end, you could be leading to chaos too. So, so sometimes picking a side is the right route, but then also choosing your own path could be the right route too. And that's kind of what Ramza struggles with, is he's realizing how much of a puppet he's been in this war and how much society has programmed him to try to think a certain way, yet he fights that programming. And I love that. I think that's what makes Ramza such a great character. And so here you get, these guys sitting around talking after talking with Dysadarg, and Argoth is like, my grandfather was captured during the war, and he's like, he turned traitor, and that's what ruined my bloodline. That's why I'm not accepted the way the Bell family is. But my father has done nothing but been loyal to the crown and to the to the world of Ivalis, and so have I. And so we're trying to reclaim our family's, I guess, stained reputation. And so that's great. It gives him a point of view. It makes you understand why maybe he's so close-minded when it comes to class and equality. It's because he's fighting so hard to get back into like the good graces of his country. And that's where the rift comes. That's where he kind of is so devoted to that and cares so much about that he ends up kind of swaying away from heroism and becoming a villain. And here we get our introduction to Alma and Tietra. And Tietra is Delita's younger sister, and Alma is Ramza's sister. And then you have Zalbag here kind of explaining things. And again, Zalbag playing kind of the good brother. He heard what Dysadarg said. Dysadarg is kind of a man of the cloth, and he's, called Lord Dysadarg. He's taken over, I guess, for their passing father. And Zalbag is more of like a fighter, a general. And they approach things from very different points of view. And you're going to see that, as the game progresses, and you're going to see some of their, I guess, morals tested throughout this storyline, and to see if they're really good people or not. Because there are a lot of plots going on, a lot of sinister movements behind the scenes. But then you have Zalbag here kind of hinting about the Corpse Brigade and saying like, hey, we got some information about them. Kind of sits on well with me, what they're doing, what they plan to do, who they're kidnapping. And I might have some information that I'm not supposed to share with you. But if I did, maybe you could do something about it, kind of thing, like a hint, hint, wink, wink, almost like in Captain America when Tommy Lee Jones talks about, where the soldiers were kidnapped and where they're being held, and he kind of leaves it to Cap to connect his own dots to go into the battle. That's kind of what Zalbag's doing here. He's kind of, not really baiting Ramza, but kind of baiting Ramza, because he knows his brother is a good fighter, is a good warrior, is true of heart, and will hopefully do the right thing, and hopefully his friends will, accompany him, and that's kind of what's going on. So, then you have your goodbyes here. Delita's like, hey, mind your studies. His sister's actually getting an education because she's friends with Alma and the Bell family, and because they're actually treating her a little bit better than they would most common people, and that comes from Ramza's friendship with Delita and Alma's friendship with Tietra, and they treat them like brothers and sisters, even though they're obviously not their brother and sister. And I like that. I thought, again, it paints the picture of what kind of person Ramza is and his sister Alma, and it sets them up in a very positive way, to the point, because again, you're playing this game your first time, you're going through it, you want to like the characters, you want to understand their point of view, any actions they take, you want to understand why they take them. And I think the game creators did such a phenomenal job setting this up and really making you care for these characters. Even this moment here with where she's like Ramza and the wind's blowing, and you get this sense of dread, like, okay, Ramza has made up his mind on something, but is it going to lead to a positive outcome? And, obviously it's a story that is just starting, so of course it's not going to start off on a positive note. Actually, this game doesn't even really end on a positive note if you really think about it. Ramza is forgotten by time until, Alazlam comes in to, study this era of history. So yeah, it's just so good. It's a very, very rich universe, and I could see why they wanted to tie other Final Fantasy games into it, like with 12 and Tactics A2. It makes so much sense to me. There's even some characters in this when they updated it. Like I said, they changed some of the job classes and they changed some of the phrasing of things. I think they did a complete overhaul on the dialogue and stuff, like the translation. They hired a different team, I believe, than the people who worked on the original game. So some of the translation is better now. I guess, there were some mistakes made. Obviously, it's hard to translate the amount of text in this game into English and get the game out on time and and all that stuff. So if I'm not mistaken, they got a whole new group to come in when they did War of the Lions to kind of re-translate it. And I think they were working like something crazy, like 13-hour days or something. It was a lot of work. I can only imagine. I can only imagine because I've done little stuff like when it comes to like subtitles and light translations, and let me tell you, just little things like a couple sentences can feel like a chore. It really feels like work. But to do a whole entire game, I can't even. My head can't wrap around it. So kudos to the team that brought this to life both times, the first edition and the War of the Lions edition. And then even later editions, I think they still updated it afterwards a couple times too. But there, like I said, other things they added was they included like references to Baltahir, who was a character from Final Fantasy 12. I think I'm pronouncing his name right. And then Clemens, who was a Tactics A2 character. And, they had that. They had Robot 13. I hope Robot 13 is still in here. There's some Final Fantasy 7 references, some Final Fantasy 3 references. They changed some of the job titles, like I said, added some stuff. I think there was a character that could only be a Dark Knight. It was like his specific job title was Dark Knight, but then they changed it to Fell Knight, and I guess Dark Knight is actually like an actual class that you can get with your characters now. So just little things like that, but yeah, they did a great job on the overhaul of this game. I like this map actually a lot. I when I was grinding, I came back here a ton because I actually like fighting these goblins. The monsters in this game are really fun. I like the goblins. I like the floating balls of fire and ice. Like they're like these. I'm blanking on their names right now, but they're awesome. And then if you weaken them enough and they get desperate enough, they'll move. If you huddle your characters together, which I tend to do, I'll surround an enemy and just have them all swipe them once and try to kill them. These characters like plan on that, and so when you surround them, they'll explode and they'll take out one or two of your guys with them, and anyone who survives is like covered in oil, which means you're susceptible to fire and stuff. So it's really cool. So again, tactics being the key word here. You have to think before you make moves. You have to really know what you're going to do. You have to see a few steps ahead of you, much like chess. It's very much like playing chess, which is why I probably love this game so much, because I love playing chess too. Chess is a definite great exercise for the mind, along with like word puzzles and things like that. So that's how I view this game, is like anytime I go into a battle, and I've read Sun Tzu, The Art of War. Like I've read books like this by these strategists that think on this different plane of existence where like time is fluid in the sense of where they have to figure out what's happening next before they make their first move. And I love that stuff so much. I get really into it, like Machiavelli, things like that. Like it's really cool. So this game, touching on all that stuff, just makes it even better to me. But you see here, you'll see this guy talking here. He's part of the Corpse Brigade. I think he's going to be essential to the rest of the story for Chapter 1. And I don't think they name him here, although Delita, I think, recognizes him here in a second. But you see that he's like, wait, you did what? Like, there's like basically this group of rebels, if you want to call them that. They're starting to split. Some of them don't believe in kidnapping for ransom and things like that. They don't want to go down that route of being like literal scum. And some of them have gotten so desperate and gotten so hungry that they've decided to cross that line, and they've kidnapped, and they've I think they kidnapped the Marquis, and they're so now our group of soldiers here are trying to find the Marquis and save him. This is the information that Argoth gave us, and so they're basically like, all right, we gotta take these guys down. And I think this is where Delita is like, I just remembered Weegraf is the guy's name. So that's who we just saw and learned of. And he's part of the commander of the Dead Men during the war. So during the 50 Years' War, he was like a major general. And now that the war is over, these remnants of the war, like these corpse brigade and stuff, these men who claim to, fight for the dead, I guess, their dead comrades, they've kind of, like I said, they fractured. So half of them are doing heroic things, or not heroic, I should say, but they're trying not to be pure scumbags by kidnapping people and ransoming, and stealing and stuff like that. They just try to take what they need or fight for what they need, and they try to move on. And now there's like a branch of them that have become extremists. And so Weegraf is kind of, he hates that. He's like, this isn't who we are. This isn't what we're supposed to be. We're better than this. We fallen so far that we've literally become like the villains that we, claim to hate. And that's a lot of what this is. It's funny because like when I look back at this game and when I replay it, I realize why most of my life, especially from teenage years to like, now, why I've never, kind of gravitated to kind of like a sheep mentality or like a herd mentality. And it's because of storylines like this. I'm not even kidding. Like, and I've played this game so many times that it's like, it's definitely got to me to where it's like, I don't always go with the popular opinion or the certain flow. Like if I don't take the path of least resistance sometimes, and that's because of stuff like this. I see how these characters and probably, and again, when stories are written, they're from people's life experiences. So the people who made this game, for all I know, they were themselves tired of a certain type of programming that they were getting, or at least they were aware of it enough to write a story about it. And that's what this is. It's about breaking from your programming. It's about what society says you should do and how they think you should act. It's going against that if you think it's wrong. It's about not becoming an extremist in a way, and it's about fighting for what matters most to you without losing who you are in the process. And I love that. It's such a great theme for a story, and it's executed so amazingly in this game because Ramza refuses, no matter how dark things get, he doesn't want to give up what makes him Ramza. And Delita, on the other hand, suffers real tragedy in this, and because of that, he gives in. He gives into the darkness. So he gives into betraying what he knows is right by standing by Ramza's side. He knows that ultimately that has to be the right move, but he can't do it. He can't do it. But the good thing about this game is you can understand why. I am actually a big fan of Delita. I would almost argue that maybe on some level I would make a lot of the decisions that Delita makes in this game, which is kind of scary in a way too. But I at least I say that in the sense that I understand his actions. I would like to believe, like most people like to believe, is that you would do the right thing like Ramza is trying to do. We all want to believe that we are the hero of the story, but you can really understand Delita's trajectory in this game. You can understand his motivation big time as you get through it. And it's funny, these early battles, I leveled a lot of my guys up, but for some reason Ramza, he dies a couple times, and like in these first couple battles, he dies in each one of them, and so I'm constantly throwing a phoenix down to resurrect him. But yeah, he's a target of everyone, every wizard, every archer. Like they go after Ramza big time. So you'll see Ramza drop a lot in these battles. But luckily I'm able to save him each time. Because the thing is, if Ramza dies, and you see the little numbers above their heads, like it's counting down, when they become zeros, right after that turn, they turn into that, like a treasure chest. Or they turn into like a diamond or something that will recharge your health, or they'll turn into something where you can learn a free ability, like you can learn fire or thunder without having to actually pay for it in job points, which is fantastic. I love that they do that. So, there's when he counts down to zero, if Ramza counts down to zero and turns into something, the match is over. If you can't resurrect Ramza, then the match ends. So anytime he's down, you got to bring him back. And the other side of that is if one of your soldiers, like one of your squires or your chemists or knights or whatever they become, if they turn into a crystal or a treasure chest, you can't ever get them back. I think their gear is maybe still in your inventory, but the character that you've been, training and leveling up and, and trying to perfect all these job class things, they're gone too. So if you lose someone, I would say good strategy, get a couple chemists, get some of your characters to at least learn potion, maybe high potion and phoenix down, and maybe antidote as well. Try to give them like the essential chemist abilities to every character if you can. That's my advice. Do that the best you can. Because if you do that, then your characters will be, as long as you can keep resurrecting people with Phoenix Downs, you'll be fine. And if you're grinding enough, you'll get to me, like where I'm at, like, I think when we ended chapter 1, I was at nearly 100,000 points, or like dollars, or gil, I think it is. Yeah, 100,000 gil. And I bought like 99 Phoenix Downs and 99 potions. Like I maxed out on everything because I was just like, why not? There's going to get to a point later on where we're probably going to use a ton of that stuff. So I would recommend it if you're out there. As far as the strategy goes, definitely do that. But then here, yeah, we beat the battle, but Ramza was gone. My knight, she is amazing. She actually carried me through a lot of these early battles. And then once I made Ramza a knight and then a monk, he stopped dying, basically. When he was a squire, he was dying a lot. So yeah, I kind of took him on the monk route. I wanted him to be a monk. And he'll probably be a dragoon next, I'm thinking. So we caught one of the swordsmen, and we're questioning him, obviously. This is where, again, you'll see how all the characters react in a scene. This is why I like scenes like this, because it's like, all right, here's one task. We got to get information. And we have 3 potential heroes or good guys. How does each one of them act in order to get that information? Which line will they cross to get that information? And I think scenes like this are really great because they're great for character development and character understanding. So Argoth here, you see, has no patience for this guy. He calls him a pig. He's calling him names. He's belittling him. Even though the guy's for sure going to die probably, he's being, just insulted, kicked. Argoth is just not having it. He doesn't like this guy at all. And he calls him a pig, and he says you slaughter people, and this guy's like, look, I'm not a rogue. I didn't mean to do this. And he's like, they go into this. And I'm going to you can read the text for yourself, obviously. I'll try to explain things when I can. But, but this guy's trying to explain himself. Like, look, we're hungry. This is, what do you think makes you so special? Like birth and blood. Like, why are you different than us? We fought in the same war that you fought in. Why are we treated like this? And why push us to the point of desperation? The kidnapping wasn't just on us. We would never hold someone for ransom. You're talking crazy, and they're like, no, like your people did do this. Like, this is the information we have. And he's like, yeah, no. And so then he gives up this guy Gustav. And Gustav Margriff is a lieutenant commander of the Dead Men. And that's someone else that Delita is familiar with. So, yeah, the Corpse Brigade, I guess, is involved. But he admits that Gustav is the extremist. He's the one who's most likely taken things too far. And that's where Ramza steps in and is like, dude, stop kicking him. We got the information we needed. What's going, and then he's like, all right, where is he? Where's this guy at? And he's like, all right, he's in the sand pit or whatever. So yeah, that's basically, again, like I said, you have Delita kind of being impartial. He's just sitting back, just listening to the knowledge, not really stopping Argath. But then yet at the same time also speaking his mind when he feels like he should. Rams, on the other hand, is like, hey, we're going too far. Like, this guy gave us what we wanted. Stop kicking him. Stop treating him like this. And Argoth is the opposite. Argoth is the one doing the kicking, doing the questioning. He's the interrogator. So, again, just seeing those different types of personality. But we'll get into that more in the next episode. I appreciate you all watching this. I hope you guys are enjoying these episodes. And if so, let me know down in the comments below. Like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And I'll see you in the future. Peace.